The night the music died, inside the Dominican Republic's jet-set nightclub disaster, a night of celebration turns to horror. Santo Domingo buzzed with excitement. The legendary jet-set nightclub, a cultural icon and musical hub of the Dominican Republic, was hosting one of its most anticipated events, a live performance by the beloved merengue singer Rubby Pérez. Between 500 and 1,000 people danced, laughed, and celebrated life inside the venue. Shortly after 12:40 a.m., however, the atmosphere shifted. Witnesses noticed strange creaks, water leaks from the ceiling, and falling dust. Some pointed upward, warning others. Moments later, the roof of the nightclub collapsed, burying hundreds in a crushing wave of concrete and steel. In seconds, the music turned to screams. Lights flickered out, the air filled with dust, blood, and panic. A joyful gathering had become one of the deadliest, non-natural disasters in the history of the Dominican Republic. The rising sun revealed the heartbreaking scale of the devastation. The once glittering jet-set nightclub was now a mangled heap of concrete, steel, and shattered dreams. Emergency lights flashed through dust and debris. The smell of smoke and blood lingered in the air. What had been a night of music and joy had turned into a graveyard. One by one, the names of the victims began to emerge, and with them, the true weight of the tragedy. Rubby Pérez, the voice that had filled so many hearts with joy, had been standing at the center of the stage when the ceiling fell. A national treasure and beloved merengue icon, Rubby's final song was swallowed by silence. Fans wept openly at the news. His voice would never again echo through Dominican streets, but it now belonged to history. Among the dead were two men who had once lit up baseball stadiums with their strength and charisma: Octavio Dotel and Tony Blanco, both former Major League Baseball players. Their careers had taken them around the world, but their final moments were spent together, back in their homeland, just trying to enjoy the music. Then came Martin Polanco, a fashion designer whose work had walked runways from Santo Domingo to Milan. He had been planning his next collection, an homage to Afro-Caribbean culture, but fate had other plans. Perhaps the most shocking name on the list was Nelsie Cruz, the governor of Monte Cristi province. She'd come with friends to unwind after a long day. Photos taken just hours before the collapse showed her smiling, dancing, and full of life. She was a symbol of strength for her region. Now, another name on a growing list. The tragedy reached beyond the Dominican Republic. Among the fallen were guests from Colombia, Venezuela, Haiti, Italy, France, and Kenya. Families abroad were waking up to nightmares delivered by phone calls and headlines. Jet Set, once a place of unity through music, had become a monument to sorrow. Across continents, each victim had a story, a reason for being there that night, a birthday celebration, a reunion, a date night, a last-minute decision to see a favorite artist. And now, those reasons had turned into memorials. In the hours that followed, the Dominican Republic stopped, not just in mourning, but in disbelief. How could so much life vanish in the blink of an eye? How could so many dreams be crushed beneath a single roof? This wasn't just a list of names. These were the faces behind the silence, and their stories would not be forgotten. The search for life amid the ruins. As news spread, emergency teams, including international crews from Puerto Rico and Israel, rushed to assist. Massive efforts were made to find survivors. In a haunting twist, no new survivors were found after the first day. After more than 48 hours of digging, the government officially ended search efforts, shifting to recovery and identification of the bodies. One of the most chilling testimonies came from Patricia Ovelis, a survivor who was buried under bodies for hours. She described using a deceased victim's phone to contact her family. "I told them to take care of my son," she recalled through tears. Patricia was eventually rescued, her voice now a symbol of resilience amid devastation. President Luis Abinader immediately addressed the nation, declaring 6 days of national mourning and halting all non-essential governmental activities. "We are a nation in pain," the president said in a televised speech. "We have lost artists, leaders, sons, and daughters. This is not just a tragedy, it is a call for accountability and action." A special tribute to Rubby Pérez was held at the Eduardo Biro National Theater, attended by thousands, including the First Lady. tragedy. Across the Dominican Republic, communities held vigils, sang his songs, and prayed for the lost. What went wrong? A club with a troubled history. The Jet Set Nightclub was not just a party venue, it was a piece of history. Originally a cinema, the building was repurposed into a nightclub in the late 2000s. Renovations were conducted in 2010 and 2015, but critics say structural issues were never fully addressed. In 2023, the club suffered a fire. Authorities are now investigating whether the damage from that fire, combined with poor construction and lack of building code enforcement, contributed to the collapse. The club's owner, who has now spoken publicly, called the disaster devastating and offered condolences to the victims. However, public outrage is growing, with many demanding his arrest and a full investigation into how such a disaster could have occurred in a popular and well-known venue. International media swiftly covered the story. CNN included the nightclub collapse in its 5 Things to Know Today on April 10th, highlighting the magnitude of the loss and the government's halted search for survivors. Other major outlets on social media, hashtags like Jet Set Collapse and Dominican Tragedy trended worldwide. Vigils were held in New York, Miami, and Madrid, cities with large Dominican communities. Stories of survivors and victims went viral, turning the incident into not just a national, but a global mourning event. Aftermath and the road ahead. As the Dominican Republic begins to bury its dead, questions remain unanswered. Why wasn't the building shut down after previous warnings? Were the renovations inspected? And what does this mean for other old structures around the country? President Abinader has vowed to overhaul building safety regulations and audit all public venues. A national task force has been created to prevent such tragedies from recurring. But for families of the 226 who died, including children, performers, politicians, and workers, no reforms can replace what was lost. They now cling to memories, music, and the hope that this pain might lead to change. In the words of one survivor, "We came to dance, we left with silence."